Hi, I'm Nessa. If you're like me, you feel self-conscious wearing hats, but you do it anyway, and you forgot to call your mother back yesterday. Sorry, Mom. Or you're a photographer who wants to talk about album design. If that sounds like you, we should talk. Today we are going to be talking about album design, which I'm really excited about because we just got through a culling video. At this point, you've got all of your images flagged. I am actually going to be designing an album from 2015 because I just had a conversation with the bride, who is actually Sam's sister, and she said that she was ready to order an album. So I'm gonna make that happen. We are gonna go start to finish and try to finish this album in 26 minutes. Let's see if we can get it done. I will at least get it set up and show you the basics and show you what I'm looking for. So I really wanted to make this video because in the previous video about culling, I was talking about how helpful the slideshow images are and how that really helped me to be able to do things really quickly going forward. And building albums is one of the things that I'm able to do because I had a really nice workflow for culling going into this. Even though this is an album from 2015, even though I may not remember all of the important events that happened, I don't have to go through all 777 images from their wedding day to be able to easily put together an album really quickly. The slideshow was made just a few weeks after the wedding day, so I knew it was important to them then, and I'm able to really easily extract those images from the images that I had flagged as slideshow photos, and I'll be able to drop those into an album, and that'll be a good place for us to get started. I really like to pre-design albums for my clients because it feels like homework to do that kind of curation. Even if you love the people in the pictures, maybe especially if you love the people in your wedding pictures, it's really hard to figure out what goes in and what stays out. And you'll know from the culling video how hard it is to be a curator. Putting that in your clients' hands is really hard. I feel like whenever I started making albums with my clients and I gave them the ability to let me know their favorites, I could see this pattern where clients would start by picking favorites from earlier in the day, and they would choose a lot of getting ready images, and then the favorites would sort of peter out as they sort of lost steam, or they were just feeling overwhelmed with all the options, or maybe they just had decision fatigue, which is a very real thing, and we know that as people that are professional curators and professional colors. So I feel like putting that in their hands it's not even super easy for us, so it's nearly impossible for somebody that maybe has never even put together an album before. So I like to pre-design. It helps to set the cadence for the wedding day. I sort of get to establish what a successful layout looks like, and I get to put in all of my favorite images so the goal is they'll show it to all their friends and family members, and they'll see all of my favorite images in combination with all of their favorite images, and that'll really resonate with them, and then they'll want to book me, which, like, I'll take that. While I do pre-design and I do choose all of the initial images from the album design, I let my clients know that while I do the first draft, they are in charge of the next drafts. They have full control and can make unlimited changes to 2 additional drafts before I start charging for additional changes. And they get to do like unlimited swaps. They can add images to spreads. They can add additional spreads. And I let them know in advance what those costs are going to be, and each time I send them a revised draft email, I'm also letting them know if there are extra costs because I don't ever want that to be a surprise, and I also don't want it to be really expensive. I price my albums a little high, but it's also including all of the pages that I think will go into an average wedding day album, which for me tends to be about 30 spreads. I feel very comfortable telling a wedding story in 30 spreads. So that is what I include in my base album price. While I do feel confident that I'm able to design an album in under 30 minutes, I will say most of my process, most of what I'm doing is just waiting for things to happen. I have all of my images flagged the way that I do for slideshows. It says there's 383, but that's just because it includes all of the slideshow images in both color and black and white, because I deliver it in both color and black and white. I do end of the year surveys with all my clients, and I always ask if they like it, and everybody really, really appreciates it and likes it, so I can't take it out of my workflow yet. I like to keep all of my albums on a specified external hard drive because client revisions sometimes come back a couple of days after they get the first draft of the album, and sometimes it takes them months, and sometimes it takes years. So I keep them all on an external hard drive so that I have all of their images together and I'm not having to like dig through the archives whenever I want to do revisions. I am going to drag all of their images onto this external hard drive. So while the last few images are being copied over to the external hard drive, I'm going to go ahead and set up my album in Smart Albums. If you haven't used Smart Albums, oh my god, I really can't recommend Smart Albums enough. They have made so many like amazing strides to make this program really user-friendly, and it's really easy for you to design your own templates to use with this program. So I am just going to make a new one. I design everything with my as Vision Art as my album company. I usually do square. I design everything as 10 by 10 because I don't offer anything larger than that. I tend to just leave it on these default options. I've not had an issue with that yet. So I'm going to hit next. I'm going to do all templates, but this is a feature I really love. So you can do templates without square frames if you're somebody that really wants to stick to the original aspect ratios, or templates with only 3:2 ratios. I don't mind. I do all templates, and there's a really easy way for you to favorite your favorite templates, which I totally take advantage of. I don't do background colors. The gap that I keep in between mine is 6 points, and this is carrying over from the way that I also designed in InDesign, and then I don't have a border around my images. And I'm gonna hit start. I'm going to go to my client's album that I just opened, and it's going to say Kate and Stuart. So I'm just going to grab all my folders, and it does support folders. So it's going to start importing all my images. I'm going to go ahead and import the black and white and color version. So this is going to take a lot longer for me than it would an average wedding day of about 700 images. Now that I've gotten Smart Albums open and we're looking at it, you can see that all of my starring has paid off. All of my 3-star images are detail shots, and those are showing up really easily. All my 2-star shots are anytime anybody looked at a camera. Those are all showing up really nicely. And let's see, my 5-star images, these are 2 images that I took away from the day that I really, really loved. So these would be great if I were doing like a photo cover, and these are images that I definitely want to make sure that I'm putting in the album. So I'm just going to do all images, and I am going to select all of my red flagged images, and I am going to drag those up to the timeline. It's going to let me know that the image limit is 24, but that's okay. I'm just going to really quickly go through and make breaks. So these are all really good like introductory scenes. I'm going to break that up. We've got mom arriving. Here's a break between guys getting ready. I can just start breaking this up wherever. It doesn't really matter where you start. Dancing photos. I think they had an exit at the end of the night, so I can break that up. And then if I wanted to, I could go in and get rid of the black and white images, and then like that's almost a perfect spread. I'm just gonna show you how I would make a spread. I'll usually start anywhere in an album, but my goal is for the spreads earlier in the day to be more minimalist. I want it to reflect sort of the feeling on the wedding day, and so I want the designs to literally be calmer. So I like to use more negative space, more white space. I really want it to sort of set the scene for how things felt. So even though this is 3 images and they're scene setting images, I might do something that's a little bit smaller with like white around them. And I am getting to these just by clicking on, I don't know, the thing. But you don't have to do that. If you just hit your up and down keys, it's going to cycle through, starting with your favorites or your most used, which my favorites always have stars on them. So for 3 images, these are my favorites typically. I'm going to choose one with more white space, and then it's really easy to move things around. I'm just going to drag them. One thing that I'm looking for when I'm designing albums is that I want it to be a continuous art piece. I want the entire spread to look beautiful together. So I'm looking for images that flow well together. I like the transition of the trees to the sky with the trees, with the little bit of blue to the little bit of blue that's in the car. So I feel like this is a really nice spread that works together. You've got the warmth on the left side of the page sort of mimicked with the warmth on the right side of the page. And I also think that it helps that I've got pretty unique processing that tends to, while the colors don't reflect what's in reality, it does tend to lend itself to matching a bit more as I'm putting albums together. For this, delete the black and white images, and then I'll add more to this as I go in. There is some girls in here. I'm gonna move this back over to this spread. So just click and drag. I might delete that. And then again for this, I might make the spread a little bit smaller and just change this up. And then say I really like this spread, but I don't love the layout as it is. And they don't have a layout with the one image on the left, on the right side and the two images on the left. First of all, this is really bothering me. I am going to move this image up top because I really think it's important to not have top-heavy designs. So anytime there's something that's like more intricate or not a lot of like big solid shapes, I'm gonna try to put it above so that it's sort of making a more balanced looking image. I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna see, oh, they don't have the exact spread that I'm looking for. Double click on the image and it's gonna take me in the designer. The designer is really nice because it has magnetic tools, it has these guides letting me know whenever I'm all lined up. I'm just gonna drag this image over here, get it perfectly centered, and then I'm going to take these two and move it over to the side. And I have the option of saving this as a template or just going back. I'm just going to go back. This might not be a template that I use in the future. Oh, this is another picture. I think this might be nice to add to this spread. So I'm just going to drag it over to this spread, and even though I've already designed it and I've already picked a template for it, adding another image is going to change the template. Again, I can mouse through to get a design that I want. Again, earlier in the album, I'm going to want more negative space. I am going to make this a black and white spread, so I'm going to get rid of the color images here. I feel like I'm slowing down a lot because I'm describing it all. I'm just throwing in breaks where I remember there were breaks. This is the beginning of the ceremony. So I'm going to get to the end of the portrait. So here's reception and first dances. Here's some more portraits. I'm going to give a break here. I'm going to put cake cutting on the same page as the bouquet toss. Get rid of all my like black and white images because I really feel like that's going to be a color spread. I feel like that's good. You've got a story happening up here. One thing that I want to avoid is lines going through faces. I'm going to go ahead and scale this a little bit and just make it slightly off center. So here we have a dance spread. I know from personal experience that I have some spreads that I really like to use over and over. And for dance pictures, I really like 12 spread. It's like a perfect grid, and I'll show it to you now. This page has 13 images on it. So I am going to choose this image to get rid of. And then here we have a perfect grid. And I only have, let's see, 3 black and white images. So I might consider going back in and swapping this one out, a black and white here. That way we've got a nice row of color on top and a nice row of black and white in the middle. What I think would really make this page nice, because there's so much happening, there's so much interaction, is going back into the reception album, turning off my flagged images, and just choosing a couple more from everybody enjoying themselves and having fun so that the design becomes a little bit busier. I'm going to do the same thing. Instead of using elements, using sort of like light to dark, I'm going to throw some of the images that have more white in them up top. Yeah, I'm just going to go through and keep making chops. I like to pair verticals together. If I can drag some of these verticals together. The least fun part about doing it like this is really just how much it jumps around. So especially for detail pages, I'm never going to use the black and white images. And they're going to be like 2 inches by 2 inches, so I try to have it fill the page as much as possible. And I try to avoid layouts like this one, that has images intersecting not with other lines. It's just a personal preference. I'm not a big fan. It automatically gave me a square layout, which I don't like. I'm going to put this on top because it's also lighter. So then we've got sort of like this red mirrored here and these dark tones beside each other. Then I am going to go over here and I'm going to move this entire spread to just before the reception. It's really important for you to set up your album the way that a movie flows. And I do this for blog posts as well. So you want introductory images, then you want to slowly introduce the characters. As you're flowing throughout the album, you don't want anything to be jarring. So you don't want it to go from like a group picture to the ceremony. So I usually like to introduce pictures of, the ceremony set up without anybody in them, or all the details or florals, or something that sort of separates the day, saying like, okay, we finished with portraits and now we're moving on to something else. So I like this spread where we're sort of like introducing the dress. I feel like I don't need both of these 2 dress pictures, so I'm going to delete this one. But I feel like this is a really great detail picture to sort of like open the book. So I'm going to put it closer to the beginning. So we've got outside and then we have interior. I might change this layout again. I like a lot of white space really early on. I think I'm going to do this layout and I'm going to move it so that the green is in the middle so it's more balanced. So we have light on both sides. I think I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the sky. I feel like these two images work fine. I'm going to get rid of this moment because I really want this to be like a portrait page. So I'm going to get rid of that. I'm just going to change it up so that the layout is allowing the images to be a bit bigger, getting a bit busier, so I'm more comfortable with having more stuff happening on the spreads. These two are very similar, and this one's like a much better moment, so I'm going to get rid of that. I like the shape here. I feel like it's good interaction by swapping out these images. I don't have to change the composition to get her face in there. And I feel like this fits together. I like the line that's sort of created with their heads here. So I feel like this works really well as a single spread. Don't like to do, unless it's like a really heartfelt moment that is made better by black and white, really prefer to keep most of the ceremony in color. So I'm going to go ahead and remove my black and white images. This is an extra step that I really wish I didn't have at this point, but I'm in too deep. I'm just gonna go with it. So spacebar is a good shortcut. I don't have one of the kiss in there. So these are all the recessional pictures, but I'm also going to grab one from the ceremony. I'm going to throw a kiss in there. Mwah. So I'm going to throw a kiss picture in here. And then I feel like I don't need 3 of them walking away. They're all really cute, but I'm just going to pick one. There we go. So we've got kiss, recessional. I tend to leave out things that take up a lot of space that maybe aren't a priority on the wedding day, such as the processional or recessional, but I don't always put it in the album. I also don't have people request that I put in like the 9 pictures of their friends dancing their way into the reception. So I feel like it's not a deal breaker for a lot of people. I really love this picture from the ceremony, so I'm just gonna break up the pages around it because I really want this to be a full spread image. So another thing that I like to do is I like to break up similar spreads so that the layouts aren't just being repeated over and over. So I'm still at 36 spreads with a whole bunch to go. I'm going to end up cutting a bunch. Their night ends really well with the sparkler exit, so I don't need to have a lot of the transitional and scene setting images sort of like later on in the album. So I'm going to move it around. So this is how it starts, and then we've got the girls getting ready, and then we've got the introduction to where the guys are, and the guys getting ready, girls getting ready, guys getting ready, girls. That way we're sort of flipping back and forth. We're really getting a good sense of what was happening at the same time for both of them that day. So right now we have 7 spreads dedicated just to the ceremony. I think I'm going to combine them. I don't want these 2 images to be beside each other, so I'm going to have them be across from each other, so hopefully there's a bit of like folding pattern thing that happens. We are at 30 spreads, which is the amount of spreads that I like to include in albums. I can go through them all with you really quickly. You can see that it came together really nicely. Portrait of them, portrait of them. I am going to swap these actually because I don't like having the layouts be exactly the same. Perfect. Got ceremony pictures leading into the portraits of them. So we get to this page. I only took a couple in this place. I'm just gonna choose one that is darker, but because it's going to go right there in the middle, I feel like it's going to work really nicely. And I like this layout. Got like laughing and artsy. So whenever you see this alert, it just means that you need to go in and find the correct size image. This image, it was a Bernizer, so it was probably sized a bit funny, but I'm just gonna go in and find that later. And carry on with the portraits. Got a whole details page before being introduced into the dinner and going into first dances, hanging out, cake cutting, a couple more portraits, dance party, exit. That's great. I'm going to hit export. It wants me to view the solution, go to the spread, or ignore. I am going to hit ignore for now. I'm going to export for print. I do not use the client proofing that comes with Smart Album. Now I'm going to hit export. The export is complete. I wanted to log in to my Smart Albums account to show you exactly what it looks like whenever a client logs in, so you can see what the revision process would be like. I have instructions from the photographer, hit OK. The revision process is amazing because they literally just click and they leave messages. If they want to do specific swaps, they're not trying to describe like, oh, third one from the left and down two, which used to be the case whenever I was using Album Exposure, which I think has updated their system since, but I really enjoyed using Album Draft. The first page that my clients will come across, this page that I've made that has all of their linen covers. They can upgrade to rustic leather. I don't love this font, but it's the page that I've put forth and it's the one that I stick with. This is the very first spread. And whenever my clients are done making all of their comments, they just hit submit comments. I get an email and then I do the revision process. Again, I always have everything on my external hard drive. So even if this client came back to me 2 years from now, I don't have to dig into the archives and it's not a really tricky process to be able to get to their files. My biggest pet peeve with this software is the fact that you can't search by file name in their system yet. So if somebody says to me, I want it to be file 456, I would have to literally look in Spotlight for like their name, 456, and find their image in that way and then drag it in. For example, they requested picture 59 to be on their getting ready spread. And even though it's already been imported, it's going to let me know that it's been imported, but I'm going to drag it onto that spread. And it's going to let me know, but it is still going to put it in the spread. So it's a really easy workaround. It's really inconvenient to have to do anything outside the software, but overall this has been really successful. I'm going to show you what the upload is like on here. Upload spreads. The software is automatically open to this page, so I'm just going to drag all of those in here. And then in this folder, I have my storybook and flush mount cover options. For my flush mount albums, I use Red Tree, but I'm going to go with my storybook for this one. So I'm just going to wait. All of the spreads have been uploaded. I am going to go ahead and grab my storybook albums linen covers and I'm going to drag it in here too. And I just use the same one over and over, drag it to the start. And then here is the album that we made today. Here's all the information that they get going forward. If they want to make changes after the first 2 rounds of unlimited changes, then it's $100 per spread. And then again, I tried to design this album to set the cadence for the wedding day and sort of set expectations that earlier in the spreads, we were going to do something more minimalist, that it was going to be more calm, and as anticipation builds, as we get closer to the ceremony, the spreads are going to get a bit busier, a bit larger. And I'm trying to make sure that as I'm putting together spreads, I want the entire spread to work as a whole piece, including lots of pictures of family and friends. If your business model is based on upselling additional spreads, which mine's not, it's really nice to pack in a bunch of pictures of friends and family because it makes it really difficult for those spreads to be cut and then they buy more spreads. Mine's not based on that. I just like to include whatever I think best represents and tells the story of the day. A couple more dancing pictures, and then one of the exit, and that's it. That's the end of the album. I let all of my clients know that I pre-designed the album for their convenience, which is why everything's uploaded to this really nifty proofing software. I really love Smart Albums. I definitely think it's worth giving a try. If you log into their website, you can just get a 14-day free trial, definitely play around with making custom album layouts. It's really easy to use. Even if you are already proficient at InDesign, you might still really appreciate it. I know that I do. I don't design albums in InDesign anymore. I cannot imagine what it's like to design albums in Photoshop, but I know a lot of people still do that. That is how I use my slideshow images and my red flagged images and my starred images to help me to make an album. I will say I've started this video like 5 or 6 times now. It doesn't usually take me that long to design albums. So it's really funny is that my camera cut out again as I was trying to wrap it up. Thank you so much, strangers. I really appreciate you watching this. Please let me know if you have any questions going forward. Let me know what you'd like to see next, and I hope you have a really good day. Bye. And they would have some favorites from early.
I can't search for photos here. Sorry about that.
The FBI is listening.